Hey everyone, this is Cholera, and I'm here with Morph 1081, and this is part of the Commentator Idol contest. Morph is going to be assigned at least one commentary today from history. I've just given the link to this game, which is July versus iloveOov in the Gilette OSL semifinals, played in July of 2004. He has no previous knowledge about about what game it would be. He also doesn't know the map either. It's called Mercury. I've just given him a link to that. Those are the only things I've given him, and in about a minute he'll begin commentating. So do excuse any kind of faults that come from this commentary. It is very extemporaneous. Morph, how are you doing? And are you excited to do this historical commentary?
Well, I wouldn't say excitement, I'd more say a sheer white burning terror, but nonetheless, I'm hoping this is going to be very enjoyable. I feel I've not been on top form for the last few weeks, mainly because I haven't been able to talk with my hands, but I'm hoping this will be a morph renaissance.
All right, looking forward to it. You can start the countdown at any time.
Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good evening, Internet. My name is Morph, and this is the surprise matchup. Literally moments ago, I picked the number 3, which happens to be one of my favourite numbers out of the possible choices of 3, to have this matchup for the Gillette OSL Finals 2004, sponsored by Max 3 Turbo, as you see there. Now, this is iloveOov versus JulyZerg. As you know, both players are really well known. JulyZerg, definitely one of the players who we all feel for, but at times has just stumbled and fallen from inconsistency. So therefore, going into this, I would probably say that iloveOov is the man I'm going to back, just because I have seen iloveOov bottle quite a few times. Now, the map is Mercury, TVC 61%, so that is not an even percentile whatsoever, but if there are people who can come back from an unadvantageous position, you are looking at them right now, and now we have the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, so I'm looking for a really intense matchup. As you know, because this is a retro matchup, this is a matchup from 4 years ago, that we're going to be hopefully pointing out some of the real differences between what's standard play now and what was considered standard play then, because as you all know, Starcraft is something that evolves. It is something that continues to move and thrive and change as new players discover new things. Now, green Zerg here, that is JulyZerg, big surprise. So therefore, process of elimination, the blue Terran here, iloveOov. Now they have spawned reasonably close together, no cross-position funsies today, so we could be seeing some quick scouting, and especially with that Overlord scout going in exactly the right direction. Now, this map is on the space tile set, and this is a really peculiar map, Internet. I looked at the JPEG of this map on Team Liquid, just because I was allowed to look at the map just before going on to this, and my fragile little mind absolutely boiled. I was just like, wow, this is one of the weirdest maps I've ever seen. There are lots of gaps in between the space. There's lots of just absolutely weird things on this map from that brief image I can see. I will say, actually, I haven't seen a matchup on this map before, so I'm looking for some really interesting play. So we've got that scouting drone going out in the wrong direction, but probably by the time the Overlord scout gets to iloveOov's base, maybe by that point JulyZerg will have the economy to maybe lay down a sort of hidden expansion somewhere, so that would be very good for him. Now, obviously, when the Overlord scout comes in, it will mean that iloveOov will just know exactly where JulyZerg is, because with the crushingly slow speed of the non-upgraded Overlord, he will be able to use process of elimination to be able to find out exactly what's going on. So there we have the expansion going up for JulyZerg, going for what I can only presume was a 12 hatch, as he has a hatchery up before anything else, whereas we have a fairly standard opening for iloveOov, or at least what I would think of as standard now. So there is the scouting SCV in the base, sees there's no spawning pool, sees there's no gas, knows that it's an expansion based build, whereas of course iloveOov, as you saw, was starting off with that supply depot going for the Terran Warlin, which I can only presume, Internet, is a build which has been, not even a build, just a tactic of Terran play that has been absolutely popular throughout the ages. Now, JulyZerg there pulling quite a few drones off the line there, pulling I think 2 or maybe even 3 drones off the line, so clearly definitely did not want any scouting information at all. Really wanted to get that SCV out of the base as soon as possible. And I don't know what's, I think that drone there is just getting confused as hell, like spinning around. Probably getting nearly as confused as a Savior Ultralisk, if you remember from that other classic match of the OSL finals of 2006, I believe, where Savior lost one of the key main battles because 4 of his Ultralisks just sort of linked together and just all got confused with each other, and so he couldn't resupply his forces. That was a great game, went for about 45 minutes, went down to the elimination in the end, one of my favourite matches of all time. And still that one drone slightly confused. I don't know if that drone's waiting there for something to happen maybe, or if it's, you know, just he's forgotten about it. I presume that JulyZerg, being the God of War, would not just forget about a random drone somewhere. Now, as you can see, we do have lair tech going up for JulyZerg. 2 racks build. Obviously, iloveOov is going to be wanting to go for the medic marines. Hugely advantageous against the forces of Zerg, just because you have so many different kinds of units coming at you and you don't know what's going to be coming at you, so you want those units that can attack air and ground and that do equal amount of damage to all kinds of units. Now, we do have that one little Zergling there having a little look around, just making sure it knows what's going on. Now, July has not been getting much scouting information at all. He did have that early Overlord, but I have not seen it. And yes, that one drone from earlier was actually planning something. We have the proxy hatchery. I do believe that wasn't quite as close to a mineral field as I'd like to see for a standard hatchery, so I think we could actually be seeing some sort of proxy hatchery. I could be completely wrong and making an absolute fool of myself, internet, but I hope I'm not, because I love the proxy hatchery. I love it in your mirror matches. I love it to just have that way of really taking map control. You know, I always like when proxies are used as a device for map control rather than as a way to try and have hidden tech. So now we have the Hydralisk den going up, so I can only presume he's going to go to Lurkers, and I can only also presume that he will have some tasty tactics. Now, what I do notice there is that we see Firebats in the mix, and usually nowadays whenever I see a Terran player go Medic Marines, I do not see a lot of Firebats in the area. So we actually have equal ratio to medics as we do Firebats there. I think that's a really good choice, especially against the Zerg, who obviously will have lots of Zerglings all crushing in towards you. Obviously, as I'm sure you know, internet, the Firebat very good against those small units, but they will be vulnerable to the Hydralisks, which I can only presume will be on the way to that din, and of course the Lurkers as well. The Firebats will not stand a chance whatsoever against Lurkers, and quite wisely there, leaving 2 Firebats by that blocking, so if there is a Zergling run by, they will just incinerate them into a crisp, smouldering nothingness before anything can happen. So at the moment, both players have basically just been posturing. They've not really had any major struggles for map control whatsoever. Oh, Gilette shaver actually rips across the screen. That was terrifying. That was quite perturbing. And as you see, no, but the Wallin fails there, gets into the base, sees what's going on, but to be honest, the scouting information isn't really as useful as it would be, as obviously he is going to know that his opponent will be going for Medic Marines, but nevertheless just confirming it. And now once again that proxy hatchery going well. I can only presume, as I saw quite a few of the eggs that were morphing there further away from the hatchery than you usually do see, so I believe they were probably lurker eggs. We will find out, and if we have a load of lurkers scuttle into base, especially the iloveOov is still on a 1 base economy, he will be in serious trouble. If he has this base, his tech go down, and it is lurkers. It is lurkers on the field, supported by just a few Zerglings as well, so it may all rest on this, but nevertheless I would expect OOV to be able to come back, moving in now with the Lurkers. 1 siege tank there to try and do that, but the Lurkers are not content to do it now. They want to get right in by that middle line before they barrel, and they do. They get in by the middle line, laying down the splash damage, and now here comes the relief force coming in to try and do this. We do have the scanner crucially, and let's see how many SCVs will go down. Scan goes off, and quite wisely the Lurkers retreat away, leaving 1 behind almost as a sacrificial lamb to make sure that the other Lurkers can get by, and unfortunately this failed. No real significant number of kills with those Lurkers, and due to the angle they were coming in, iloveOov probably does suspect that there is some form of another base. I'm sure he doesn't specifically expect a proxy hatchery, but he will at least be wise to JulyZerg having forces toward that side of the map, Now as we see speedlings running in, but they will just be ripped to shreds by this medic marine force supported by Farbats. Now posturing in, coming in with the lurker. Once again, you have to be so careful in this position as a Zerg, because those lurkers will do splash damage to your own units. Now coming in, but all the units just getting completely slaughtered. Still one Farbat there left to help support this. Not enough marines there. He needs to resupply with marines drastically, because there's equal number to medics and marines, and as you will surely know, that is not a good ratio for you. Now once again, trying to take down those forces with the lurker. Zerglings coming in, trying to get through the gap. Marines making a nice blockade. And so July has been applying a firm pressure, but the thing is, the pressure has not been paying off. And once you get all those upgrades for your infantry forces, they become so much more powerful, and you will be able to push out. And it's the often contradiction. In a way, the Zerg player always has to be the one to try and break through. But at the same time, if you leave the Zerg player, they will just expand and expand and expand so much more easily than any of your opponent, and then they will just roll over you. So it's essentially a race between the macro and the tech. That is what is going on here. It's who can macro up faster and who can tech up faster. That is what we are seeing here. Now moving in with the lurker force again. Now we do have siege mode. We do have a bunker there. This is a solid defense. Zerglings moving in, pulling back, moving in, pulling back, with those three forces of lurkers there. And as I'm sure you noticed, Internet, I do believe we did see that science facility. So once the vessels are out as well, the lurker honeymoon, as I like to call it, when the Terran player is relying purely on his scans for detection, that is the time when you really need to make your most of the lurkers. If it goes past that point and gets to the point where the science vessel's out and you don't already have been able to put in some severe harassment and do some severe economy damage, then you are in trouble, because at that point the Terran will be able to go out, it will be able to expand. We are still only on a 2 base versus 1 base in terms of bases that are actually mining. Zerglings moving in once again, but just so many going down, not able to stand up to this bunker supported by the siege tanks there, and this medic marine force that is just being perpetually reinforced by those barracks there. Not as many barracks as I would like to see at the moment, but there is that third racks going up once again. Those two lurkers are just sat there, half acting as scouts and half just laying down that constant pressure. So I do believe that iloveOov is just waiting to get his tech up, waiting to get his mobile detection, and then he will push out and start taking bases. And really what I think JulyZerg needs to do now, he either needs to go for a quick kill, or he either needs to get his macro up. Admittedly, there is essentially a soft contain on the go, but if you want someone who can break a contain, it is the forces of the Terran, just with their supreme range and damage of those siege tanks. It is actually really nice to see this hybrid build of half mech, half infantry against, and once again the lurkers just go down. They are not able to break through. There's just too much of a wall, because as you know, Internet, no one turtles like the Terrans, no one turtles like those hard iron plated human grunts. They know how to do it. And now we do see the control tower on that. And no, actually it is only now we have the science facility going up. I was incorrect before, but nevertheless we may be seeing either drops or maybe even some sort of a Wraith harass, which I doubt would be what was going on if we haven't seen any flashing at the control tower. So we may be seeing some tasty drops. Unfortunately, though, as you saw there, that Overlord did get into the area, so JulyZerg will know that there is possible drop tech coming in. Maybe we're going to see him lay down a few spore colonies, and actually I don't think we've even seen a spire yet from, and there is the dropship, but nevertheless we have yet to see a spire, I do believe. We'll have to have another look into it when the base comes around again. More Overlords coming in, slow Overlords still, not going for any Overlord tech whatsoever. Might have got the sight up range, but how are we going to know? Anyway, so yes, we've seen such minimal building here from July. This is really nice. He has just focused so much on units rather than building any tech buildings. And now once again the lurkers and lings move in, but it's just not able to break it. There's just not enough of a conversation to come in. And now July, so sparse base, comes in, and it's GG. He knows he's got nothing in the area to defend that. He knew that force was just going to absolutely rinse his one base, then the other base in suit shortly after, and that was a intense little game which I thoroughly enjoyed. Thank you, much love, good night.
And thank you very much, Morph. And by the way, I should have mentioned that was Game 4. JulyZerg was actually ahead 2-1 at that point, but now we are going to go to a Game 5, and guess what you've won, Morph? You won a commentary of Game 5! So we'll be moving on to Morph's commentary of Game 5 of this Best of 5 series in the Gillette OSL semifinals.
Good evening, Internet. My name is Morph, and welcome to the final of my surprise commentary. This is actually the very next match of the one you were seeing. Previously to this, JulyZerg was the man in the league, ready to take it for that previous victory. But now iloveOov has re-evened the score, and now the whole OSL final, sponsored by Gilette, comes down to this match here. Now, this match is on a lot more of a favoured map. As you know, the previous one, TVZ 61%. This is a 54% favour. And as you know, I often say, if it's less than 5%, it don't mean nothing in my book. Now, this is a 4 spawning position map. We do have some cross position joy, so that means we're going to have a slightly longer game. But this map is one of the maps, once again, it's one of the maps that's not really popular in the pro scene at the moment, but nevertheless, this is a map which you'll know and love. It's one of the maps that's got the sort of bridginess in the middle, so once again, this is going to be a lot more reminiscent for you, because obviously that last map was random as hell. One of the things that Colin mentioned to me during the little gap between this that I completely missed in complete new fashion was that the natural expansion didn't even have gas on that previous matchup, which was absolutely crazy. I obviously just presumed out of sheer ignorance and just, you know, being the norm that obviously is your natural, you gotta have a gas at your natural. So that even makes more sense to me as to why they do. So now once again we have the Zerg dual scouting method going in one direction with your overlord going in the other direction with one of your drones. It's quite an early scout actually, in my opinion, especially that drone has gone out a lot more earlier, with the combination of the overlord going out as well, so we definitely could see something pretty tricky going on. But the thing is, when it's the final, you're probably going to be less likely to do straight up cheese, because you don't want to make that sort of a risk, or at least I wouldn't as that. But nevertheless, by the fact we have such an early scout, he definitely has something in the bag. I tell you this, Internet, once again going for that instant expansion, wanting to do what Zerg do best, just set hatcheries all over the place, just get hatchery madness here. Once again, I was really impressed with iloveOov's build. I think it's something you don't see a lot more. I think Terran players nowadays definitely seem to over-specify. There is the drone inside the base. One of the SCVs there having a little pop at it. Is the drone able to micro? It is able to micro. It gets out that, probably trying to just disrupt the building of what I'm sure you can see there is a second barracks. They're going for a lot of barracks straight up off the bat. Definitely wants to get a large number of troops on the ground as quickly as possible. Now, we had a slightly later spawning pool this time. There's the gas going up. There's the spawning pool already up. The first Marine is out, so quite rightly, that scouting drone does get the hell out of there. One thing actually that I think maybe would make it less likely that he is going for the madness is he did try something that definitely you never see nowadays, which is the proxy hatchery, which didn't obviously pay off for him. It was a good build, but the thing is he just never got, this is JulyZerg obviously, he just never got enough of a concentration of units to be able to really break that Terran hold. And then once there was that drop in his base, he knew it was over, as I mentioned before. So there is the hatchery popping. We've had a few drones coming off, coming at you, trying to get as much as economy going as we can. So let us see where this is going to go. I really don't know what to expect from these players. I don't really know what to expect from the build, but I know definitely when you have been playing 5 matches against someone, even though they have obviously already played each other in their careers before this point, once you're on that 5th set against someone, for anyone who does, you know, do best of 5s or whatever against someone on the internet, you do really get so into your opponent's rhythm. You can really feel what they're doing, although obviously you tend to variate between matches, because if you're doing the same thing again and again and expecting different results, that is the definition of insanity. Of course, it's not the definition of insanity, it's just a phrase people like to use. So now we have the lair and the hydralisk den going up at similar times, and we'll see if we do see any mutas. Maybe not. I mean, as this is 2004, I do think this could actually be before the muta stacking trick was invented. Maybe that's just a guess. I don't know. I'm a noob to the pro scene, internet. I will freely admit this. You can probably all know this from listening to me. So once again, we see some Farbats thrown in the mix there. Very, very tasty. Just a few Zerglings blocking off that ramp there. Probably they're there more to stalk out that expansion to sort of make sure that he knows exactly when his opponent will try and take an additional base. So what am I? Okay, so now we do have that command center going to be flying it in just a little bit of time. Going to push out, take care of that Zergling force, and then be able to take that and have even economies, because even though iloveOov won, he did have a severe economy disadvantage, and it was only due to the sheer impenetrability of the turtling of the Terran might that he was unable to break through before. So we do have a sunken down there just for a little bit of defense. Obviously very good against the large clustered forces of a infantry based forces. Few Hydras pushing out. Actually, I don't know if he's going to maybe send them out and then morph them just in a slightly more forward position, or if he's just going to try and break in with pure Hydras. As I'm sure you know, internet, Hydras are of course better against armor targets rather than specifically infantry, if I do recall correctly that they do explosive damage. Now I'm just really tense going into this match. I mean, I think especially when you watch older matches, you see that players, one SCV there getting caught by the Zerglings. Players do really tend to give each other a lot more breathing space. So yes, they are just morphing a little bit before. You know, you don't really see, you do see early harassment and you do see early pressure, but there is just a lot more room given by the other players. It's just how it tends to go. As I mentioned before, one of my favourite classic matches was that Nalvar versus Savior from 2006, and in that they just give each other such immense breathing room for so much of it. I guess it's the logic that they are not wanting to risk losing forces as early for what they might perceive as so little a disadvantage. Getting in there with the lurkers, sending them down. Farback goes down, and as I'm sure you saw, we have a third base going up for JulyZerg there. Lots of medic marines and Farbats in the area once again. Oh, and that goes down. That building is cancelled. I do believe it was actually cancelled rather than destroyed. Once again, could be wrong. I'm wrong about a lot of things, internet, but you forgive me for it, and for that I thank you. So anyway, we have those lurkers just right on the doorstep. I'm sure that basically iloveOov is going to do exactly what I did before, but no, now they are actually getting behind the mineral line. He will have to get all those out of there. Thankfully, he does now have 2 comsat scans as he's gotten that expansion up so much earlier from before, so those lurkers will just be that fraction less effective. But nevertheless, his expansion is not mining. His opponent's got 3 bases nearly functioning. As you can see, that third is not quite up and running yet, but nevertheless it will be. So there will be a huge economy advantage in just a little while if he can't defend this. You know, obviously he is not going to want to take off that command center. He's going to want to leave it there for the scans. He doesn't want to make his add-on go neutral. As you know, I made a huge mistake in my previous commentary saying that the abandoned control tower would act as a scout, whereas obviously now I know from the wonderful people on YouTube ripping my face off on the comments page that is not how it works. They just become dead. Now, as I'm sure you can see, that command center is getting in pretty low health. So iloveOov really needs to get in there. Obviously, the joy of the Terran allows you to repair it, but nevertheless, now he is moving in to try and take his expansion for himself. Only 1 of those lurkers remaining now, but so few Marines left. Only 2 Marines left, and thankfully it does go down. That would have been bad in ways I cannot even begin to tell you, internet. I'm sure you can use your wonderful imaginations to be able to figure out for yourself how bad it would have been if he'd have lost that expansion. That would have been a GG right there, my friends. But nevertheless, we have, I believe, 4 hat-tricks in total now, 2 at the natural expansion, and now we have another going up. So JulyZerg is just macroing the living daylights out of everything, pushing forth with that Meg Marine Force, going for less Farbats in the mixture than he did previously, probably suspecting that his opponent is going to go for more. And now we see a hive, a really early hive, less than 10 minutes into this game, and we see the hive. That's definitely a lot quicker than we are used to seeing the hive. I can only presume, well, I can't even presume anything, internet, because I have no idea about the play tactics back in this day. Are we going to see the filers? I presume, although he does have a lot of bases, he probably very shortly will be able to have the gas support required for ultras, but maybe it's just for cracklings, maybe it's for defilers and some swarms, or even swarms popular back in these days. Maybe he's going to go for Guardian's internet. I just don't know. It could be anything. Those lurkers laying down some pressure on those bunkers there, building bunkers in what is a good and a bad position at the same time, because obviously his opponent is choosing to go in from different angles. Now, thankfully, we do have this little Zergling force, but I just think it's going to be nowhere near enough. I mean, obviously, as you can see their internet using the ridge to be laying down pain, their internet, laying down pain on that bunker. The bunker goes down just its own. It's not as many minerals as I'm sure you'd like to believe, but nevertheless, it is just costing your opponent minerals by destroying those structures, and especially the fact that Terrans thrive on being able to repair damaged structures. And now finally we see the factory going up, 2 factories in fact, so we're going to see a lot more of a mech heavy build from iloveOov than we saw previously in this. Maybe also he's going to follow up again with drops. We haven't seen a Starfall as of yet, but as I'm saying internet, I have no idea, so we could see absolutely anything in this. Few Zerglings coming in, but obviously I'm sure JulyZerg wasn't trying to break through with 4 Zerglings. That Zergling force was essentially testing the water to being able to see how quickly they were splattered, to be able to get an idea of just how much forces, and it is the Defiler tech. It is the Defiler tech. Now, the problem there is the Defilers obviously will be wonderfully good against the Medic Marines, finally using a scan to take down that lurker that has been on the ridge for so long. But the problem is, one, the Firebats will be more effective against the less defended against, or less neutralized, that's the word internet, less neutralized by the Dark Swarm, and also with 2 factories going in, which JulyZerg has no idea about because he's not been able to get a scout into his opponent's base, that it's going to be much less advantageous, because with the splash damage of the Firebats and the splash damage of the siege tanks, it's just not going to be the optimal response to what's going on at the moment, unfortunately. But we see yet another hatchery. This is hatchery madness, internet. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bases, multiple hatcheries in one of the bases. More hatcheries could have gone up while they've been looking away. So we could have 6, 7 hatcheries going on at the moment, which is just absolute Zerg madness. And then if we get the crackling upgrade, the amount of cracklings that we'll be able to pour in, JulyZerg will probably be able to A-move this to be able to take the win. Multiple Evo chambers, and now finally we see the Ultralisk, and the Ultralisk, just such a beautiful unit, does so much more damage with every upgrade, has that insane extra armor upgrade. They're just so hard to take down. Now finally we see the science facility and 2 starports, both with control towers, so we will see a good amount of science vessels in the air. Now we do see that first Dark Swarm. There's only a couple of siege tanks though to defend against it, swarming both bridges and that bunker. That's absolutely wonderful. Loads of what I can only presume are cracklings pouring in, even more Dark Swarms going off. Lurkers now getting right up in the faces, and it looks like this expansion may go down, and yet another Dark Swarm. These are beautiful swarms. I know the word beautiful is usually reserved for the storm rather than the swarm, but nevertheless, that is perfect, placing 1 on each bridge. That was just fabulous, darling. I absolutely love that. Now Devourer's munching away on a few of the Zerglings so they can lay down more. I think probably just because of the timing, the fact that we've already got those out, that maybe Plague isn't out yet, we don't know. Now once again the Dark Swarms are actually right up in the base, Lurkers there right on the ridge, few Farbats do go down, and this is terrible for iloveOov. His opponent has such huge macro and he is pushed back to his main. He's had to take off his expansion. It's 1 base versus the rest of the map. I do not see how iloveOov can come back for this, and now the Ultralisks are there. This is terrible. Swarm supported Ultras are something no Terran wants to try and defend against it. You know, there's just not that critical mass of siege tanks that can just lay waste to anything that are required to be able to soak this. And JulyZerg there, just in the zone there. There we do see the science vessels, but I don't know if a radiate has been researched. And once again, a radiate, even with the massive damage it does over time, it's still just not enough to take down an Ultralisk in time before it can just do so much epic damage. Farbats going in there, but just getting absolutely romped on, surrounded by these huge monstrous creatures, cracklings coming at them from all directions, just a few medics now, and I really don't know how iloveOov could possibly pull this back. I've got to say this completely belongs to JulyZerg, he's just macroed the living daylights out of everything that moved, and then once those high-tech units came in there, iloveOov just had nothing that can respond to them. I never like to call a game before it's over. I think a comeback is possible from all things. After all, we've seen people triple nuke their own armies and still make a comeback. Yes, the bastard made a comeback after that. You know who I mean, Internet. But nevertheless, now we have flaming buildings in the base, and we have the Ultralisk pouring in. One does manage to go down to those medic marines. Even a vulture coming out. Even a vulture coming out. Where we're going to see some mines. I don't know if that's just madness or desperation. But so many Zerglings coming in, but it is actually, hold up, a lot of the Zerglings go down. Even SCV is coming off now to try and swamp out this Zergling force and try and survive the Ultralisk. And iloveOov has actually soaked it. He has actually soaked this attack force. He has been able to survive it. But how can you come up with a response to that? There's more forces there already waiting to come in. There's so many hatcheries. There's sunken colonies everywhere. So even a spire now, so we could even see some air units, although I doubt it, Internet. But and even another hatchery going out, just total map control. So even if iloveOov did what he did last game and it tries to do a drop to take down expansions one at a time, there's so many sunkens there that a medic marine drop just is not going to cut it, especially when you have lurkers and ultralists popping left, right and centre. And so this, I wouldn't say that what we've seen right here is necessarily what you would call a build order win. It's just a sheer macro win. I mean, it's just completely abusing it's almost, it's abusing the nature of Zerg. Obviously I don't mean it's an abuse as such, but it's just taking maximum advantage over what the Zerg do best, as I said earlier, which is just spread like the plague. They are all over everything. Science vessels passing by one of the overlords there. Vultures coming in trying to get a quick harass, but there's just too many. Going for the eraser now, definitely a trick that has its advantages, you have to say. The double eraser, fair few drones going down. But now we have the Scourge coming in. One science vessel goes down, both science vessels go down, and that has got to be GG. That was doing some great last minute economy damage. That was really trying to pull it back. Siege tank goes down. There is still one science vessel there, but it's just not enough. Dark Swarm goes off over the units, and there is the GG. That was a romping. That was a romping, Internet. I don't believe I just did 2 matches in a row and I've just finally used the word romp. It is my favourite word, Internet. And that was the very definition of the romp. Win to JulyZerg. Well done, you gorgeous, gorgeous hunk of man. Much love and good night.
Alright, Morph, I really enjoyed listening to those commentaries, and before we begin with the second part, which is the very fun Starcraft quiz presented by Professor Cholera, I'd like to just ask you a couple questions, get to know you better, and let the viewers get to know you better. So, Morph, why don't you tell us where you're from briefly, and if you want to, you can tell us what you do in your life, you know, whether you're a student or what kind of job you have if you are a working stiff, and then tell us about, you know, how you came up with your nickname and anything else you want to share.
Well, as you can probably tell from my Austin Powers voice, I am from England, from the Warwickshire province, which is a really lovely place. I'm from a place called Leamington Spa, which is really good for culture and the arts and stuff. You know, there's a lot of consumerism going in there, so that's pretty tasty. I'm a theatre degree dropout. I just got to a point where I just couldn't deal with the insane pretentiousness and getting up at 6:30 in the morning every weekday to do bodyworks. You know, I mean, I wouldn't say I didn't have the dedication, it's just that what I was doing wasn't something that I agreed with artistically. But anyway, enough of that pretentious nonsense. In terms of my nickname, actually, it's from the Exiles character, which is a spin-off of the X-Men series from Marvel Comics, and it's Morph from Earth Universe 1081. And the reason why I feel a lot of empathy for Morph is he started out as the comic relief, but then he started to get more and more depth, and he has terrible luck with women. You know, she'll always turn out to be a hideous alien monster or a lesbian or in love with someone else, and then as all good superheroes does, he eventually dies tragically, and he's one of the few superheroes which they haven't done the sheer whackness of resurrecting him every 6 months when they get bored of the current continuity. So yeah, just a little sample of myself and why I am Morph1081.
Okay, thank you very much, Morph. And I'll be following up with the beginning of the test. All right, Morph. This is the first time I'm administering this exam, so I'll explain a little bit. This exam is worth 100 points, and it's split into two sections, two halves. The first is about pro gaming trivia and history. I'll ask you 10 questions. They're all worth the same, 5 points each. The second half is about Starcraft knowledge. I'll ask you 7 questions. The first 4 are worth 5 points, and the last 3 are worth 10 points, and they're a bit longer. So let's begin. These questions will generally be in order of easiest to hardest. Question 1 from Pro Gaming Trivia. Before Stork, which player was known as the King of Silver for his frequent second place finishes?
Oh, I do actually. Oh, it's a Terran, isn't it? He's got a funny name. I think it might actually be iloveOov, but I'm probably wrong.
Okay. Question 2. Which player revolutionized Zerg play by his pioneering use of the Mutalisk stacking trick?
Once again, I don't actually know this, but Stab in the Dark Savior.
Question 3. Which player holds the nickname the Legend Killer?
J-Dong.
Question 4. At the present time, where do the top 4 finishers in the OSL get seeded to in the next OSL season? As in, what level? What round?
It's the round of 16, I think. They each all get put into one group and then sort of pick their groups, is it? Terrifying.
Okay. Question 5. The Arena MSL was played 2 seasons ago, with the finals in July of 2008. Who played in the finals?
No idea. Let's have a guess. Let's say BC Flash. I don't know.
Question 6. Name 3 out of the 4 players who just played in Group F of the Lost Saga MSL, known as the Group of Death.
The Group of Death, that was Huisin. I watched this on your fucking take 2. I watched this on the Vile Attack with Klazar. I want to say Huisin. There was another Terran. Okay, I'll just guess. Huisin, Flash, July.
You can name a 4th one too.
Oh yeah, there's a 4th one. Huisin, Flash, July. No idea. Pass. Fail.
Okay. There are 4 players who have won 3 MSI titles each. Name 3 of them.
Oh god. That's the thing for the Golden Mouse. I think I do remember reading that iloveOov did finally get a Golden Mouse. So I'm going to go with iloveOov. iloveOov, Flash, and iloveOov, Bisu, and Boxer. Why not?
Okay. Question 8. Going only by first place OSL or MSL titles, which race has won the most Star Leagues?
Protoss?
Question 9. Going by ELO score and recent performances, who is currently the best player on CJ Entus?
Oh god, that's probably a trick question, so I'm going to go for effort.
Question 10. Which current pro gamer with 50 or more games total has had the highest lifetime win rate in Protoss versus Terran play?
The highest scoring Protoss, I don't know. Best?
Okay. All right, this is the first question of StarCraft knowledge. And you can give quick answers to these first 4 questions. What is the main reason a Protoss player would like to get a very early +1 attack upgrade against a Zerg?
Because it attacks, because it increases the attack of more than one kind of unit.
Okay, question 2. In a standard late game Terran versus Zerg, your science vessel has the option to irradiate an Ultralisk, Defiler, or Lurker, which are part of a force that is about to attack. So an Ultralisk, Defiler, or Lurker. In most cases, which one would you irradiate first?
That's tricky because on one hand, obviously, the Defiler is a spellcaster, but on the other, the Lurker's burrowed, so they might not notice that it has been irradiated. And then as things are moving over it, it might also get irradiated in the splash. So yeah, I'd go for Lurker.
Okay. Among pro gamers, which race is statistically favored on the map Andromeda in the Zerg versus Terran matchup?
Terran?
Okay. Question 4. Say Backho is playing Jaedong, and he has unupgraded Zealots, fighting Jaedong's fully upgraded Ultras, which have 6 armor total. How much damage will his Zealot do in one full attack to the Ultralisk?
5?
Question 5, and you can answer a little bit longer. As precisely as you can in 1 minute, describe the Bisu build.
The Bisu build is starting off with the Forge Fast Expand. You would go Pylon, Forge, Cannon, Nexus. Then you would switch into Stargate for lots of Corsairs. You'd go in, kill the Overlords to nullify the protection, and then go in with Dark Templars.
Okay, thank you. Alright, the next question, I'm going to give you a scenario. Say a Protoss player loses his scouting probe after he sees a Zerg go Fast Expand on the map Python, while at the same time going Forge Fast Expand himself. The Protoss player sends another probe about 3 minutes later and sees an extractor up at the Zerg's natural expansion before he loses the second probe. How will seeing the extractor affect his play?
He'll probably, by seeing that extractor, presume that it's going to be Mutas coming out, so he's either going to focus more on Dragoons or Corsairs.
Okay. And finally, the last question. As precisely as you can in a minute, describe the build order for a 2-port Wraith build against Zerg. Then, what is the most common follow-up tech switch if the Zerg has built Hydralisks in response? 2-part question.
Well, it would be starting off with it wouldn't be 14cc, it would probably be, probably 10 racks into starports, no, obviously then you got to have the factory before the starports, so 10 racks in factory, into starport, into lots and lots of raids, and then the tech switch to counter the Hydralisks would be a Medic Marine Force, because Hydralisks do explosive damage.
Alright, thank you. And here we can see Morph's answers to the Pro Gamer Trivia section. And by the way, I came up with all these questions, and if you have any questions or comments or disputes about them, you can go to the forums at SC2GG.com. I'll put a link in the video description, and you can go and make comments on this quiz, and maybe you can see how you did. Each of the quizzes for the 3 contestants are slightly different. And you can see here Morph's answers to StarCraft knowledge, the first 4 questions, which are worth 5 points each. And this is the review for his last 3 answers. Basically, I liked his answer overall for the Bisu build, but I didn't like how he didn't have that many details in terms of when he would build the buildings, the order of tech. Basically, you want to emphasize that you would get the Citadel of Adun and the Stargate immediately after your cybernetic core, and that you really want to gain map control with your Corsair DT combination, kill off Zerg expansions, and then get an expansion of your own. Question 16, he really had the Mutalisk part down. He didn't consider a Lurker possibility, which is certainly a danger. That is possible with Lurker drop or a Lurker contain. Both are possibilities. And question 17, he did very well in this. I would say he got almost full credit. The only thing he didn't mention was the possibility of getting Cloak. It doesn't always happen. Sometimes you just see straight up two starport rates without Cloak. And he was correct about there being a follow-up of Medic Marine. Alright, so you can see the final answers here. Morph did better on the knowledge section than he did on the trivia section by far. Overall, 43 out of 100 is pretty good. This test is meant to be pretty hard, and I'm curious how the viewers did if you guys tried to take it yourself. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I am the host, Cholera, of the SC2GG Commentator Idol, and the voting forum page is in the video description. So please, after watching all three of the commentators' full videos, go to that link and vote for who you think did best. This week's voting system is very simple. Straight up, one vote for who you thought did best. The judges' voting power has been reduced from 30% to 20% because of in anticipation for how many voters there's going to be and how close this competition is. We decided to lower it. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Klazart and Greth will be the guest judges this Sunday. Stay tuned for that being released on Sunday, and once again, do go vote. Thanks.